invitations for a talk or something, I sometimes regret saying, the point is, even though the talk is for an hour and a half, it will take me 2 hours to reach
To
that
reach
venue.
there.
So for me, it's half a day.
Yes.
Very sorry, would have been delighted, but travel is such a problem.
Yes.
So here, travel is eliminated.
Eliminated, yes, sir. And we really got to listen to some of the very prominent people about that fake news. Also, I had attended.
Yes. Kavita
And
Krishnan.
yes, and one before that also I had attended about the news only.
That Faye D'Souza's one.
Yes,
Mirror.
yes. Twice I had attended that. They are really very meaningful, very interesting.
True.
Yes.
Okay, so sir, Mahesh Zagre sir is here, and so we will be starting soon.
Yes.
Good evening, Sharma sir,
Good
and
evening,
welcome.
madam. Yes. Thank you.
Greeting you one and all. I'm Manas Patil, campus ambassador for VG Vazai College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Autonomous. I will be the host for this evening, and it gives me an immense pleasure to welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Mahesh Zagre sir. I also welcome Dr. B.B. Sharma sir, principal of VG Vazai College, C.A. Vidyadhar Joshi sir, vice principal of VG Vazai College, Mr. Julio Ribeiro sir, founder trustee of Public Concern for Governance Trust, and all the dignitaries present here. Um, I, on behalf of Public Concern for Governance Trust, in association with KET's VG Vazir College, Department of Economics Junior College, would like to welcome you all to this webinar on the topic the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Now, I would like to introduce the institutions organizing this webinar. PCGT. Public Concern for Governance Trust is a registered trust founded by Mr. Julio Ribeiro sir, Dr. R.K. Anand sir, and late Mr. B.G. Deshmukh sir to increase public participation and activism towards creating more transparent and efficient governance system. In order to synthesize and mentor the youth in ethical values with an emphasis on good governance, PCGT started the Youth for Governance program in the year 2012. Previously, PCGT has organized dialogues, workshops, and webinars as requested by the campus ambassadors on issues that are related to the good governance and involving eminent speakers and role models in different fields to guide and inspire the youth. VG Vazir College is a multi-faculty institution established in 1984 by the Kelkar Education Trust. VG Vazir College is the first NAAC accredited college in the state of Maharashtra with top 5-star ranking and was re-accredited in the second cycle with A grade in 2005 as well as in the third cycle in 2012. Our junior college is awarded with A grade by Maharashtra State Board of Secondary and Higher Education. It is one of the finest teaching and learning education institutions in the country and has emerged as the role model for our quality academic institutions. Now, I would like to call upon Mr. VP Raja sir to speak a few words.
Thank you very much. The senior faculty of Vazai College, Mr. Ribeiro. I can't see everybody, but I noticed that there are as many as 138 participants already logged in. More are logging in. Welcome to all of you. As has already been mentioned, the Public Concern for Governance Trust was a trust which was started by late Mr. B.G. Deshmukh, Mr. Ribeiro, who is present today, and Dr. Anand, with a view to fight for cases where good officers, good people in the system, so that their hands get strengthened in a certain way. The intention of PCGT is to fight corruption, a very difficult task, but finally we fight it using the good people in public services. So fighting corruption continues to be a very major objective of PCGT. And after the Right to Information Act was enacted, which many of us believe is almost like a second freedom movement in the country, educating people on RTI, the right to information, as a method of ensuring accountability also became a very important plank. In fact, we would like to do similar things with RTS, the right to service, which even though there is an act and there is a commissioner, things are still, even RTI requires a lot more of efforts, in spite of it having been in the statute book for long. RTS is more recent. So we would like to utilize RTI, RTS, the institution of the Lokayukta and the Upalokayukta, all these institutions to fight and contain corruption. But at the end of the day, everything that happens in society depends on values. And that has been the experience of many of us. Every skill and knowledge that you acquire in whatever may be the subject can be used for the good of society, and it can be abused. Sometimes abused knowingly, sometimes abused not being fully aware of it, because the exercise of power and authority itself creates its own problems. So to be able to very clear that my job is to do justice, to be just and fair to everybody, requires certain qualities which does not come from acquiring skill and knowledge. Skills and knowledge are essential. After all, you can't become a good engineer unless you know the engineering subject. You can't be a good accountant without knowing the intricacies of the balance sheet and the profit and loss account. Similarly, you can't be a financial expert without knowing all the management ratios. So true, you can't be a doctor without being very skilled on the subject. But to use a judgment and use it for the good of people, for achieving the objective, in addition to knowledge, requires, well, what can be called as wisdom. And wisdom is difficult to teach. It is not taught in universities and colleges. It is to be acquired. And that essentially means having your feet firmly on the ground and providing moral leadership, ethical leadership. I will use my knowledge and skill only for doing what my inner voice tells me is the right thing to do. And that is one of the objectives of PCGT. So we have been concentrating in schools, in colleges, to see how we can help people, not by preaching to them, because these things, these qualities are to be self-acquired as a process of self-development. And the development continues to take place, but a lot of it is when you're an adolescent attending schools and the early years of college. So perhaps this, particularly the age group about 12 to 25, are very, very valuable. I can say, looking back, and I'm sure Mahesh will also agree, even after joining service, so much of your values depend on the first one or two bosses with whom you work. That more or less puts you on the right track or the wrong track, so to say. So today we are very happy to have Mr. Zagade with us. And he's going to talk on a subject called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And many of us, people like me, are keen to listen to it, because I'm as much keen on this question. I pray to God let all this new technology be used for the good of mankind, and let it not get abused. I'm always reminded that the 2008 financial crisis, global financial crisis, took place because the very, very bright and intelligent financial techies basically abused the knowledge. It was a man-made crisis. And I hope and pray that the fourth industrial revolution will not create a new kind of man-made crisis and make the entire world into a surveillance state. So we are very eagerly looking forward to hearing Mr. Zagade, and over to you. Thank you.
Am I to start now? Am I audible?
Manas Patil,
Manas Patil, please.
some
Manas.
introduction of Mr. Zagade.
Yes, sir. Now I would like thank you, sir. Firstly, thank you, Mr. Raja, for your enriching words. Now I would like to call upon Mrs. Hema Sudhare ma'am to introduce the speaker for today.
Thank you, Manas.
Make it very brief, please.
Thank you, Manas. Good evening to all. I am Hema Sudhare, in charge of Economics Department of Junior College. I would like to welcome all participants for being present here for this webinar. I will be grateful and thankful to PCGT, today's webinar chief guest, Mr. Mahesh Zagade sir, and our college to give an opportunity to organize this webinar. Our college principal, Dr. B.B. Sharma sir, vice principal C.A. Vidyadhar Joshi sir, supervisor Shaligram madam, always helping, encouraging and inspiring us to conduct such activities. It is a great pleasure for me. I introducing honorable speaker of today's webinar, Mr. Mahesh Zagade sir, ex-IS officer. Zagade sir, Mr. Zagade sir has a wonderful and enriching journey of 37 years in government, uh, and with a multinational company. On his way, he could gather insight into diverse subjects ranging to research and development, public and corporate administration, revenue, agriculture, rural development, urbanization and urban development, renewable energy, energy conservation, sustainability and environment protection, education, medicines, health sector, food, water, and soil conservation, agri-processing, finance, transport, etc. Apart from this, it has been a passion for him to motivate young minds through a series of lectures on futuristic innovations, confidence building, disruptive innovations, general motivations for success, happiness, and plethora of other subjects. He has started his experience, vision, and knowledge to almost all segments of the society, including corporates, farmers, students, government officials, people's representatives, health professionals, academics, etc., through lectures and specifically organizing meetings. I would like to welcome our speaker, Mr. Mahesh Zagade sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Firstly, I request the attendees to kindly type in your questions in the chat box and direct them towards the organizing committee. We shall accommodate these questions towards the end of the session. It is recommended that all the attendees keep their videos on and their microphones on mute at all times. Now I would like to welcome our speaker, Mr. Mahesh Zagade sir. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Manas and Ribeiro sir, VP Raja sir, and the principal and faculty of Vijay College, and of course all the friends. I have structured this for the junior college students, but and since because of that, I would not be talking much about the technology and jargons and all this. I will try to avoid it. I will try to make it as simple as possible because this topic itself is a little complicated. And it's rather new because not too many people talk about fourth industrial revolution, and therefore I will keep it as simple as possible. One disclaimer: please keep aside theological thoughts for about half an hour or 40 minutes, we are going to discuss this thing because it's a pure science. And therefore, theologically, it could be different. And therefore, if somebody doesn't agree with what I'm saying, as far as science is concerned, please forgive me about that. As all of you know, why were we discussing this fourth industrial revolution? We had seen 3 industrial revolutions so far, and we are embarking upon 4th industrial revolution. First 3 industrial revolutions, had there been somebody talking about that, nobody would have listened. In fact, thought would not have occurred to talk about first industrial revolution. Nobody had thought about that. It was an industrial revolution. Second industrial revolution, same thing. Third, of course, people had some experience about the first 2 industrial revolutions, and then they started talking about third industrial revolution. Now we are in the midst, in the beginning, we are embarking upon the fourth industrial revolution. And what is that? We must be very, our eyes have to be opened up. What exactly it is, why it is relevant to us, and why we should know about it. Otherwise, what happens, like for the first 2 industrial revolutions, first and second, we were in the under the foreign rule, and we could not get benefited as much as the European countries or North American continent. They were benefited from the first 2 industrial revolutions. Third industrial revolutions, of course, we were benefited, but not as much. But in the if we miss the bus of fourth industrial revolution, then we will be unfortunate because of our own inactivity. And therefore, I feel that every individual, all the students and policymakers should be aware of what is the fourth industrial revolution, how it is going to change the rules of the game. And therefore, I will throw a brief light on it because it's such a vast topic. It won't be possible for me to touch upon all the aspects of it. Before talking on fourth industrial revolution, let me take back all of us to how this led to the fourth industrial revolutions. As all of you know, the journey is too long. It's about 1,350 to 80 crores old when the universe came out of a Big Bang, and when the matter, energy, space, and time was started about 1,380 crores years ago. It's a long time. And since then, till today, our history, human history, is too minuscule. In fact, till August, solar system was, if you consider this as like 1 year's history of universe, from 1st January to 31st of December, till August, Earth or solar system was not created. In August, Earth and solar system was created. And then in September, first life form was created. That was about 380 crores years ago. 380 crores years ago, a life form was formed. And that was a watershed year in the history of Earth. That was a dynamic year. That was critical year. And since then till today, it is just improvisation through evolution, through changes, many of them natural causes because of tectonic plate movements, climatological changes, and in last 500 years because of the anthropological changes carried out by the human beings. But by and large, for last 380 years, nothing much has changed in terms of drastic change. First drastic change that took place was 380 crores years ago when the life form was created. Now, the similar drastic change is on the anvil, and this is going to happen during some of your lifetime. This is going to be the change, just like how first life was created. And that is very serious, and therefore, the fourth industrial revolution is unlike anything else that has happened on this planet earlier, at least during the time of existence of human beings. And therefore, we must be very careful. We must understand what it is and how it is going to change our life. And therefore, everyone should try to learn about it and do something about it in whatever way it is possible. Having said that, we started as a very early ape, 25 to 30 like years ago in East Africa. And then from there we migrated. About 2 lakh years ago, we started as modern humans. And especially our history started about 12,000 years ago when some woman started agriculture. And that was the first revolution. In fact, many people call this as a fourth industrial revolution. I would call it as a fifth revolution because had that woman not started agriculture 12,000 years ago, probably things could have been different. Until then, people were just gatherer hunters, or they used to hunt and gather food. So while that was the watershed year in the history of humanity, 12,000 years ago, agriculture started, and to me, it was the first revolution. Although we do not call it as industrial revolution, but in a way, it was also industrial revolution. And that kick-started the civilization. That started the journey as a history and culture of human beings. It went on, and then that time, simultaneously, we were more inclined towards theology, God, and power coming from the clouds, and that is heaven and all these things. So we are subjected to the all-powerful there, and power of our own muscles and power of muscles of animals. So this particular history of about, say, 70,000 years of modern man, it was three type. It has been like supported by three powers. One that was supposedly heavenly power of some god, then human muscle power and animal muscle power. This went on, but something happened about 500 years ago, and scientific revolution started. And then we started inquiry into the science, then Galileo and Newton's and all these things. Of course, it did not start in one day. It had taken place from the times of Aristotle and Socrates and all that. But then about 500 years ago, the true scientific revolution started. That scientific revolution culminated, in fact, it started taking shape in the 16th century and 17th century. Until then, the entire world was agrarian world. It was not an industrial world. In fact, major GDP of the world came from agriculture. And until then, before 1750, India and China were the two top powerhouses or economic powers of the world. In fact, India contributed about 25% of GDP before 1750 because it was an agrarian world. And agrarian world for last 12,000 years, probably India and China were higher in terms of the GDP of the world. Then, around 1760, that's the time I take. Of course, before it started in 1712 and around that, but 1716, as you know, steam engine started, and then around in 1779, first patent for steam engine was taken, and that's the beginning of first industrial revolution. And that's when animal power and muscle power of human beings started getting replaced by machine power. That was the first industrial revolution. That really started changing this planet. Before that, it was a very gradual change. It was not changing too drastically. If I say that from 380 crores ago to 200 years, between this time was moving very slow. But once this particular mechanical, biological power had started replaced with the mechanical power, then the pace of change has become breakneck pace. And that is the time when the humanity really embarked upon a new journey. That's around 1760 and around that. Then, as you know, railways started, steam engine and spinning jenny. Of course, it was led by England and some European countries. Of course, some other parts of the world, they also accepted this new normal. In fact, that time we talk about COVID. After COVID, it is going to be new normal. In fact, that was the first new normal. First industrial revolution was the first new normal. We should not forget that. Then it started gradually increasing. By 1840 to 1860, another change took place, and advent of electricity, use of electricity for mass production, and then development of internal combustion engine, and then like mass production lines. It really, that is this industrial revolution that even fires the economy of the world even today. Second industrial revolution that fires the world. It went on, and then, of course, because of First World War and Second World War, this actually, in fact, it helped development of larger industrial plants and generation of large scale of jobs. Third industrial revolution started in 1960 when internet and computers they started taking over the society in a very slow, gradual manner, but powerfully it started. And that is the start of third industrial revolution. From the first industrial revolution, it was always said that since the machines or mechanical powers are replacing the human and animal power, jobs are going to be lost. But first industrial revolution, in fact, created large jobs. Second industrial revolution created humongous number of jobs. And now third industrial revolution, when it started that the softwares and computers are going to replace human beings, no, that also created large-scale jobs all across the world, not restricted only to Europe and North American continent. It in fact spread all across the world. So first the industrial revolution, contrary to the belief that time, in fact that time also the people were thinking that no, because of this industrial revolution, jobs are going to get down. Now with the fourth industrial revolution, the talk is the same thing, that the jobs are going to go down. Before talking about the jobs and all that, in fact, VP Raja sir sent me the World Economic Forum jobs report yesterday only, and that's how people talk about it. Now, what is the fourth industrial revolution? In 2011, Hanover Industrial Fair, they coined this term that the fourth industrial revolution is starting. There is no actual 1 year that can be said that from this year onwards, industrial revolution started. Then Schwab, chairman of World Economic Forum, he wrote a book in 2014 that fourth industrial revolution, what it is going to do, and how we are going to get benefited, and how we are going to get adversely affected if you do not pay proper attention to it. But for me, this was is false to say that industrial revolution started in 2011. It may be noticed, but for me, fourth industrial revolution started in 2007, when very powerful iPhone and GitHub and your social media like Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, when Facebook came from high school to general domain, then big data companies like they started there. So 2007, if you scan the year 2007, it gives you impression that that is the year from which fourth industrial revolution really kick-started. So we must now sink in the idea that your generation is the generation which has now started moving along with the progress of fourth industrial revolution. Our generation is probably the generation that was in the third industrial revolution. And your generation is the fourth industrial revolution. As I said earlier, what happened on this planet 380 crores ago, the similar drastic change is going to happen during this fourth industrial revolution. And therefore, you have to be very careful and you have to be woken up that what exactly it is. In fact, because of that we missed the first two buses, because we being in the under the foreign subjugation, third industrial revolution we benefit to a little extent, but fourth industrial revolution, it is your generation, you young people, you have to at least take notice. In fact, I feel that the fourth industrial revolution technologies, what is the future, should be started in the fourth, fifth standard itself, and every year one chapter has to be there about what exactly is the fourth industrial revolution, so that we remain in tune with time. Otherwise, the story would be repeated like first and second industrial revolution. Everyone knows what is fourth industrial revolution. I will not dwell much time on it, but I'll just touch upon it. What fourth industrial revolution? It is artificial intelligence, cognitive analytics, algorithms, 3D printing, genomics. That is the fourth industrial revolution. It is such a different world. This to say that artificial intelligence is very easy to say that artificial intelligence, and to say that what is artificial intelligence, it doesn't make much of like it's not very complicated. Or cognitive analytics, it doesn't make any like it's going to be a very big thing. Or genomics, no, it doesn't say anything. But this is going to alter the face of this planet. This is going to abruptly bring down the continuance of human Homo sapiens. As all of you know, we had 3, 4, 5 cousins as a human being, human species. Last human species was that perished was Homo florensis about 13,000 years ago. Now we are alone. We are the only human species that is in existence, Homo sapiens. All other our cousins have perished because of various reasons. But one thing is very critical. We are going to be the shortest lived human species. And that is mainly because of the fourth industrial revolution technologies. I will come to it later on. But you must understand this. Human beings are not going to be as long lived as our Neanderthal or other cousins, but we are going to be the shortest lived human species. It's good or bad, it is everybody's perception, but let's take it forward as it unfolds. When we talk about artificial intelligence and cognitive analytics and genomics and algorithm and all this thing, it talks about basically it talks about the computer and software. Doesn't anybody like has any problem about it? It's only computer. That's the thing. Nothing else that I can do. But all the common thing about this is that like the speed, that is very important. What it took the planet to bring first living animal, microcelled animal on this planet from 1300 to 80 crores years to 380 crores years is a long time span. From 380 crores years to say 500 years when science, it was a long time span. But from last 200 years till today, the speed is changing day by day, not day by day, hour by hour, and it is changing by say even minutes, the kind of technology that is done. So speed of change in fourth industrialization period is going to be unprecedented and unimaginable. That's one thing you can really understand and you should keep in mind. We cannot say that, okay, at least during my lifetime, this is not going to happen. No, it can happen even tomorrow also. Who else would have like thought in my lifetime that had I thought about like say iPhone or any mobile phone in 80s or 90s, I would have laughed like this is not going to happen. But that is too primitive if you consider what is going to happen from here afterwards. It is going to be amazing. So here afterwards it is going to be a hockey stick curve, sudden upswing of everything. That is the speed. It is not going to be the gradual thing. It is all the sectors, everything you take, and it is going to be the change that is going to happen so abrupt, so speedier, and it will not give us time or even to think about it, like how it is going to happen. I'll just give certain aspects about the artificial intelligence and cognitive analytics. Now you must have heard about long-term, short-term memory, LSTM, what it does. After say 7-10 years ago, LSTM was just a primitive kind of software, but today it has migrated into such softwares and then artificial intelligence and then cognitive analytics and merger of both. What it does, it is taking away now the power of, as I said earlier, shifted from God, because earlier in the wild, 12,000 years ago, we always believed in God, some power is there, but then it shifted to muscle power and mental power of humanity till today. But now this power is shifting to somewhere else, and that is technology. The power with human being is not going to remain with human beings, and today also it is not. It is slowly shifting, and it is because of cognitive analytics and artificial intelligence. Now, what is cognitive analytics? Whatever I am talking, whatever I am doing is collected so securely and collected from most of the people on this planet who are connected, and that is getting analyzed in such a manner that it could be used for anything and everything. It can be used for betterment also, or it can be used to anything which we do not know what is going to happen. It's like in 2007, as I said, too many things happened. IBM Watson, they created one computer program called Watson. That Watson today, what it is doing, it is replacing most of the jobs, like jobs are in doctor, advocates also. And that is because of artificial intelligence and cognitive analytics. What it does, like if there is a petition, what could be the answer to it, and how it could be, and what are the court cases and other materials that it is there. And it is actually deployed in the American American offices. So they are replacing human advocates. This is a small example I'm telling. I don't want to get you into the LSTM and the neural networks. That's too technical. But one thing is there, your cognitive ability as human being is being taken over, or it is getting shifted. So authority, the power of thinking, power of deciding, power of judging is getting shifted from human beings to machines and algorithms. Now, for example, now today, if I want to go from one place to another place, I put on Google Maps and all that. After some time, our ability to take directions or maintain directions in our head and then take up, decide where to go, it will be diminished. It will be taken over by the machine. This is a small way of looking at it. How the power is shifting towards the machines and then the kind of algorithms. This will bring in not just how you are going to get analyzed. This is going to be like how you are going to get now control. If you say that about the American elections are being controlled by Chinese and Russians, it's too primitive again to say. This is being much more than that. Nobody knows how it is happening. Today, if we read any book on Kindle, it's not just you're reading it, the Kindle is also reading you. Which letter you are, like what expressions you had there, how much time you spend there, how fast you turn your pages. So these are all things. So one thing is there, that you are no more an individual human being. You are part of the larger picture of data gathering and then data mining, converting into analytics, and they're developing some algorithm on that. This is very scary. This is absolutely scary. And this doesn't happen, stop there. It migrates to your genomics also, genetic engineering changes also. Now, if you must have heard that some people are saying that in China, they have created this coronavirus. I doubt about it, but the technology is there, CRISPR-Cas9 technology, which is there. In fact, now it has come to the textbooks also. It is so well, it is just like any tailor cutting the shirt or the trousers, how it is to that level it has come. In fact, H1N5, that's the virus. That is not as potent as Ebola, but it is official. It was converted into laboratory as a very potent virus. So CRISPR-Cas9 technology can alter viruses, but it doesn't stop there. It can alter human beings also. Now, if you come to the alteration of human beings, that's where, that's where the threat to the humanity lies, and that's where what I'm saying is that short-lived human species, that is Homo sapiens. It's not all that scary. In fact, the fourth industrial revolution technologies are going to bring lot comforts to humanity. It is going to create tailor-made medicine that is required by Mahesh Jagde because of his genomes and gene structure and all that, chromosome structure. He will get tailor-made disease, and then probably cancer will not be there, no ailments will be there. So those kind of things are also there. In fact, some of the reports suggest that if the pace of innovations and research moves with the same speed, then by 2045, death will be optional. You can decide whether you want to die or you do not want to die. So that is the potential this fourth industrial revolution has. It's wonderful. But then there are issues about this. The technologies are becoming very cheap. Say in 2001, if you want to map genome of a person, then cost involved was about $100 million. That was the thing. Now the cost has come down to $1,000. In fact, I've seen some machines in Nashik which can do this job in 4 or 5 hours. That's as simple and as cheap as this. So it is available anywhere and everywhere. This is a little scary part because this always will not be in the hands of some good people who are doing good for the humanity. This can always land in the hands of wrong people also. But perish the thought. Let's assume that only good people are there on this planet. But who are going to be the beneficiary of this? Today, because of the kind of political profile on this planet that exists, and because of the technologies, the political power is going to get diminished, and it is already getting diminished day by day because of technology. Nobody can control Amazon, nobody can control Google, nobody can control Facebook because they have got various ways, and no governments are in a position, or rather in mindset, to control them. So one way, the technology-led financial powers are in charge of this planet. And in the fourth industrial revolution regime, the money and technology, this is going to be the power and not the political power. So this is rather very serious thing that is happening. Earlier era, politicians, public representatives, king, emperors, they were at least in position. Today, anybody, even a small scientist who has got technology and he is not in a right way mindset, he might create some kind of technology that could be destructive technology. And unlike a nuclear weapon, it requires huge thing. Here in genomics, you really do not require much of it. In fact, it is said that coronavirus that has infected many people on this planet, if it is weighed, it could be just 15 grams, that's all. Now you compare that with the nuclear power, it requires huge things and a lot of weight. If 15 gram is now crippling this planet, then think about the fourth generation industrial revolution technologies can bring it here. So in the future, the governments, and since this is a college of the economics and the financial world, you are also going to be hit. This planet is no more going to be a system that is led by government. It is going to be a system led by technologies. And that's where the next generations leaders have to really awaken yourself and see that the technologies are controlled by government. It is not that the technologies are there and they are going to be used by anybody and everybody just for the sake of their own thing. And that's where the real caste system is going to emerge. Forget about religion, real caste system. Superior human beings and inferior human beings. Those who can afford, they can have tailor-made eyes, tailor-made intelligence, tailor-made life cycle, tailor-made, everything kind of tailor-made. And they are going to be the superior race, and then rest will be inferior race. And that is the anathema of humanity that is brewing. And therefore, people all across the world, they should realize. In fact, many people realize this, but the realization has to occur at the top level of governance. And I believe that there is all such thought is not there at the top level, and it is just led by the technology, and especially the larger houses, corporations of technology, they are taking advantage or other disadvantage of it. I think let's not create a very dark picture or gloomy picture about it. If everyone, unlike say we have two games like football and basketball. In football, every player has to be a skilled player. The coach has to treat every player as this, otherwise one weak link will ruin the game. But in basketball, if you have got one good player, he can win the match. You do not have everything. Today, what is happening? World is being taken over by basketball. Few people who have got technology, who have got money, who have got knowledge, they are going to lead the world. And not the football like everybody together, and they will sit together and decide whether it is ethical, non-ethical. In fact, ethical, the parameters of ethics are also going to change in the fourth industrial revolution. And therefore, in next 100, 200 years, the human Homo sapiens are going to get transformed into some different species, and that is the species will be like the species which is a break from the earlier species of human mind. But this is not the fourth industrial revolution what I talk. Fourth industrial revolution is so far it is the connection from 300 crores onwards till today. Fourth industrial revolution is something more than this. It is merger of biological and physical. So far it was biology that was developing as an evolutionary process. physics and all these materialist things were moving as their path. But today, we are at the crossroad that biology and this physics, they are going to be getting merged. That is very scary. And then even these neural dusting and all such technologies will try to overpower even thinking powers also. Even today, subconsciously, we are getting on mass, larger scale, different messages, and that's how we are getting overpowered. And the weak people, they easily get overpowered, but it is more than that. Once this merger becomes the in thing, then probably that is the end of Homo sapiens. So if it is not to happen, then good meaning people should come together and then steer this fourth industrial revolution, which is going to be the last industrial revolution. After that, I don't think there will be any industrial revolutions because it's going to be different. And therefore, this is in a short what I wanted to say. It's a large topic. If during the question hour, I think we will throw some more light specific on specific points. That's why I was given about 40 minutes time. I think my time is over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enriching views on this topic. Now we will be addressing questions, so participants are requested to please drop all your queries and questions in the chat box and direct it towards the organizing committee. We have a few questions already. Yeah. So first question we have is from Janvi Manjule, and the question is, what are the necessary skills for students to face the fourth industrial revolution?
See, here afterwards, I did not touch upon it because this. I don't want to scare you. But last report of World Economic Forum, I think it was 2018, it said that within next 10 to 15 years, 65% jobs that are today are going to get vanished. Of course, some new will be created, but there will be net loss of jobs. The current report does not say so much, but as I said earlier, that first three industrial revolutions created jobs, and just like that Aesop's story, a boy cries, wolf has come, and it doesn't come, and then when wolf actually comes, then nobody comes to his help. I think in fourth industrial revolution regime, there is going to be huge job loss. And yeah, therefore, the students now, the education system is also going to see transformation. What is the transformation? If you have acquired some skill, that skill may not be useful, may not remain useful for you throughout your life. So upskilling, reskilling, continuous process is going to be in thing. And after some time, probably there won't be any jobs also left. So this is going to be the function of government, whether to have some kind of support governmental system or not. But then in the interim, what the young generation should do is, what is going to be the scope in the future, next 10 to 15 years, which sectors are growing, how we can reap profits from that. You have to think about it. Otherwise, what will happen that like arts, commerce, science, engineering, doctors, even today, doctors are also like at threat. The cognitive analytics are taking over. Say, I am a neurosurgeon and I am scanning the neuroscans, brain scans. I may not be as like a skill, but today millions of scans are being scanned by computers and they come to a very accurate inference. So doctors are also getting now displaced. So no job today is like safe, and therefore you people should be thinking. You should be looking at the future, which jobs are going to remain. But one thing you should keep in mind, that skilling, reskilling, continuous education has to be there. Otherwise, one-time education, it is the past for humanity.
Okay, we have a few more questions. Sir, how will humans cope up with this huge change, and What about the environmental changes because of this fourth industrial revolution?
See, whatever environmental damage we had to do, we have already done it. See, before first industrial revolution, the carbon dioxide level in atmosphere was 280 ppm. All of you know. Today it is more than 410, 20 ppm. And if you really go back to 288 ppm, it will take centuries together, which is not going to happen. But how to survive with these climatic changes, and if possible, to arrest them? It starts with creating or having good meaning, governmental systems. Now, if you talk like, say, I don't want to have no problem in naming. Now, if you place a president like Trump, who is all against environment and climate and all these things, then you are really not, you're not, the voters are not in their senses. They are creating worse situation. So first thing is that whatever the leaders you are choosing, they have to be like futuristic. How climate is going to be retained as it is, or if possible, to go back to the pre-industrial era. Otherwise, we are in for a very big trouble. So it starts with the right kind of leadership at the national level and the international level. Secondly, this particular generation is market economy. We buy whatever is being pushed to us, and materialism has really cast very bad impact on the climate change. If I have got a pair of trousers, I'm having 10 pair of trousers, which is unnecessary. Or I buy things which are unnecessary, but that is creating more carbon footprint. So these are the issues, like we need to have a cultural change, and your generation has to now sit down and talk about all these things, how this could be done, and it is possible to do. Now, Paris Accord, what has happened? It is standstill. All international agencies, even if Triple C, nobody is discussing about anything, because they are not like nobody like Kyoto Protocol. It vanished on its own. So there is no seriousness. This thing. So you have to create seriousness about the climatological changes first, all across the globe.
Sir, could you please comment on the implications of fourth industrial revolution on labor rights?
On,
Labor rights.
pardon,
Labor rights.
labor rights.
Yes.
Now see, after World War II, we have seen insurgence of middle class. And today, this planet is having largest class is the middle class. In the fourth industrial revolution, there is going to be also emergence of a largest class, and that is class of people which are jobless. You are highly educated, but you do not have jobs, or do not have any activity to earn your livelihood. And therefore, this is going to be the main thing. So labor laws, I think today also labor laws are under threat all across the globe, because labor cannot be sustained because of the current financial system of the world. Current financial system is towards the profit earning of the promoters. Now, last time I had given a speech on with the PCGT, and I had given an example that General Motors and Ford Motors, they used to give about 54% to 55% of their earnings to laborers. Today, Amazon is giving even lesser than a fraction of 1%. So it is going other way around. So labor laws are not going to do anything, because labor laws, to have labor laws, you have to have very strong national and international leadership, which probably is not like thinking that way, and it is getting supported by their support goes towards the bigger corporations. So labor laws probably will not solve the problem, because even today, if you consider in China, they may be having communist system, but all their labor laws are like capitalistic labor laws. So labor laws have become redundant, and fourth industrial revolutions, you will forget that labor laws could be there. I mean, it is going to that in that direction.
Sir, I have one more question from my end. Sir, when the fourth industrial revolution happens, and like there will be artificial intelligence and more use of the digital equipment. So how would that ensure that our human morals and ethics are ensured in all the other industry?
See, human morals and ethics, we have created and invented a very robust system for last many centuries, millennia. That is the religion. That was the major thing that really ethics and all these things came in. But as the time is progressing, religion is getting sidelined. Today, the ethics has no relevance because technology is replacing ethics. Now, if I have got, say, for example, today technology to create vaccine for corona, just like Oppenheimer and his colleagues, they had formulae and technology to create nuclear electricity, nuclear power, but it was used for this bomb. Today, the similar thing, if you have got technology to create vaccine, the same technology could be created to create a monster virus. So ethics or commerce. And if you ask me today, ethics becomes pale before commerce. And for last 3-4 decades, ethics is getting replaced by commerce. That's all. And that's how we are on this planet, that ethics somehow is getting redundant. Of course, we have to really, your generation, you have to really wake up and give some share or some space to ethics also, and not just to commerce.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for it has really been amazing to learn more about the fourth industrial revolution and everything really. So due to the time constraint, we will have to move to the vote of thanks right now. Um, so firstly, I would like to express my special thanks of gratitude to our speaker of the afternoon, Mr. Mahesh Zagre sir, for being here today and giving us such an in-depth information regarding the fourth industrial revolution. I express my gratitude to Dr. B.V. Sharma sir, the principal of VG Vazir College, C.A. Vidyadhar Joshi sir, vice principal of VG Vazir College, Mr. Jayashree Shaligram ma'am, junior college supervisor, faculty in charge, Mrs. Hema Sudhare ma'am and Dipali ma'am, and all the other teachers from various departments present here today for giving us this opportunity to organize this webinar. And a special thanks to Julio Ribeiro sir, Mr. VP Raja sir, and the PCG trustees, as well as my fellow campus ambassadors from VG Vazir College for their constant and progressive efforts. Last but not the least, we thank Mr. Shivam Jain Kakaria sir, who has been constantly there for us throughout the event and contributed generously in every step of the way. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to everyone and thanks to everyone who took their time and effort to be with us here today. It gives us a great pleasure to have such an amazing audience, and we hope to see you all in our future webinars too. Now I request all the participants to keep their video on for a picture. Okay, thank you and thank you everyone, and a humble request for the organizing committee and the faculty in charge, faculty to stay back, and the rest of the attendees may take a leave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to interact with the young minds, and hope they will take it forward. It is just an introduction. There is a lot to learn about fourth industrial revolution. Thank you very much.